They say legends are born in blood. They say sons spend their lives trying to escape their father's shadows. But Bjorn Ironside did not run from his father's name. He sharpened it, he carried it across oceans, and he carved it into history with iron, fire, and fear. This is not the story of Ragnar Lothbrok. This is the story of the son who went farther than Ragnar ever did. This is the story of Bjorn Ironside. The legend begins. In the frozen north, where the sea is cruel and the gods are silent, a child was born into destiny. His name was Bjorn Ragnarsson, later known as Bjorn Ironside, a name that would echo from the fjords of Scandinavia to the golden cities of the Mediterranean. According to Norse sagas, Bjorn was born in the early 9th century, likely around 820 CE. He was the son of Ragnar Lothbrok, the most feared Viking of his age, and Aslog, a woman said to be descended from gods and heroes. From birth, Bjorn was surrounded by prophecy. The seers whispered that this boy would be protected by iron, that blades would fail against him, that fate itself would bend before his will. And so they called him Ironside, a child of war. Bjorn did not grow up in peace. He grew up in a world where survival meant strength and weakness meant death. As a boy, he watched longships return soaked in blood and gold. He listened to warriors speak of distant lands, England, Francia, the unknown South. He saw his father leave and sometimes not return for years. Ragnar Lothbrok was more myth than man, and Bjorn learned early that being Ragnar's son was both a blessing and a curse, because greatness was expected and failure was unforgivable. By his early teens, Bjorn was already fighting. By his late teens, he was leading men. And by the time he became a man, the world already feared his name. The fall of Ragnar. Everything changed in 865 CE. Ragnar Lothbrok, king, raider, legend, was captured by King Eil of Northumbria, thrown into a pit of snakes, left to die screaming. When the news reached Scandinavia, it shattered the north. But no one felt the wound deeper than Bjorn. Ragnar was dead, and with him died the old world. What rose from that death was vengeance. The Great Heathen Army. In 865 to 66 CE, Bjorn and his brothers, Ivar the Boneless, Ube, Hvitserk, and Sigurd Snake in the Eye, unleashed one of the most devastating invasions Europe had ever seen. It was called the Great Heathen Army. This was not a raid. This was not a hit-and-run attack. This was conquest. Thousands of warriors crossed the North Sea and descended upon England. Cities burned, kingdoms fell, modern Christian monasteries were reduced to ash. Bjorn stood at the heart of it all, tall, broad-shouldered, brutal in battle. While Ivar ruled through fear and strategy, Bjorn ruled through presence. He was the warrior kings followed into hell, and England bled for it. King Eil's end. King Eil, the man who killed Ragnar, did not escape justice. In 867 CE, the Viking army captured him. The sagas say Eil died by the blood eagle, his ribs cut open, lungs pulled out, offered to Odin. Whether myth or truth, one thing is certain. Eil died screaming, and Ragnar was avenged. For Bjorn, the debt of blood was paid. But his story was only beginning. The rise of a king. After years of war in England, Bjorn turned his gaze homeward. Scandinavia was changing. petty kings fought for dominance, old alliances collapsed. Bjorn returned not as a son of Ragnar, but as a legend in his own right. By the late 860s CE, Bjorn had established himself as King of Sweden, ruling from Uppsala, the sacred heart of Norse religion. He was not just a warrior king, he was a lawgiver, a unifier. Under Bjorn, Sweden became a center of Viking power. But Bjorn was not meant to stay in the north. The world was still too small. The Call of the South. Most Vikings raided west. Bjorn looked south. Around 859 CE, Bjorn gathered a massive fleet, over 60 longships, and set sail toward lands no Viking king had ever dared to conquer. His companion was Haystein, another legendary warrior. Together, they launched one of the most ambitious expeditions in Viking history. They attacked Francia, Spain, and sailed through the Strait of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean. To the people of the south, they were not men, they were monsters. Fire on the Mediterranean. Viking ships appeared where no one thought possible. Cities along the coast of Al-Andalus were attacked. Christian and Muslim rulers alike were caught unprepared. Bjorn's fleet struck Seville, Algeciras, and the coast of Morocco. Then they sailed east, toward Italy, toward Rome, or so they believed. The Sack of Luni. In 860 CE, Bjorn reached a heavily fortified city in northern Italy called Luni. The walls were high, the gates were sealed, the city was rich. Bjorn knew brute force would fail, so he used deception. He sent messengers to the city, claiming that the great Viking king Bjorn was dying, that he wished to convert to Christianity before death, that he asked only to be buried on holy ground. The gates opened. A coffin was carried inside the city, and when the coffin reached the church, Bjorn burst out alive. The Vikings slaughtered the guards, opened the gates, and sacked the city completely. Only later did Bjorn learn the truth. Luni was not Rome, but the lesson was clear. Even kings could be fooled, and Bjorn Ironside could conquer with mind as well as blade. A legend returns home. After years abroad, Bjorn returned north richer than any Viking before him. Gold, silver, slaves, stories. His name spread across Europe. Children were warned with it. Kings planned defenses against it. Priests prayed against it. Bjorn Ironside was no longer just Ragnar's son. He was a world walker, a king of two worlds, war and rule. But fate, even for legends, demands a final price. The last years. The exact date of Bjorn's death is unknown, but most historians place it around 872 to 875 CE. Some say he died peacefully as king. Others say he fell in battle, as all Vikings hoped. What remains is his legacy. Bjorn Ironside founded a royal line that ruled Sweden for generations. His sons became kings, his blood shaped Scandinavia, and his name survived when others faded into dust. The shadow that never faded. Ragnar Lothbrok was a legend, but Bjorn Ironside was proof that legends can be surpassed. He did not just inherit fame, he expanded it. He carried the Viking world farther than it had ever gone, from England to Africa, from Sweden to Italy, from myth into history. Bjorn Ironside did not live in his father's shadow. He became a shadow that covered the world.